Dodge is finally ready to make some noise in the electric vehicle space, and quite literally so. The Dodge Charger Daytona SRT is the first electric muscle car and the first electric car with an exhaust button. We won't have any emissions coming out of it. I'm Fox News Digital Autos editor Gary Gastelum, and with me in the Fox Garage to talk about it is Dodge CEO Tim Kuniskis. Welcome back.
Hey, Gary. Thanks for having me on.
Always great to have you here. Do want to talk about the exhaust pipe in a second. But let's talk about the car itself. Looks like a classic Dodge muscle car. Very much isn't a classic Dodge muscle car. Tell me what this is all about.
You know, when we started talking about this, we figured there was only one way that Dodge could actually come into this space. The only way Dodge could do an electric car in general, is if it looked like a Dodge, sounded like a Dodge, it drove like a Dodge. And then it being a muscle car adds a whole nother level of stress and anxiety on top of that. So we struggled with this for a while. I'm not going to lie. We were very worried about it. But once we cracked the code on how to make it look right, then some momentum. We said, okay, we know we can make them fast. Fast is easy with electric, but we got to make it look right. We got to make it sound right. We got to make it drive right. When we cracked the code on the looks, we said, okay, now we got some momentum. Let's figure out the rest of this. And I think people are going to be, they're going to be shocked. I think they're really going to be caught off guard with what we're bringing to market.
And you said it's got to sound like a muscle car. Electric cars don't make a lot of noise. You figured out how to make this one make a lot of noise. Tell me about the Fratzonic Chambered Exhaust system you've developed.
We actually have a patented exhaust system in this car. And I say specifically exhaust system because if you think about how sound is created in a car, really all sound is just the movement of air. So piston moves up and down, it creates volume, speed and volume of air through pipes, moves through a muffler, it gets tuned, we all at the back of the car. Hellcat has a very distinctive sound. It's a quite loud sound. And people absolutely love it. So we said, we need to keep that. How are we going to do it? And the first idea came from, and you can see it in your mind when I say it, you've been in a cathedral before, you've seen a pipe organ. As soon as you see and hear a pipe organ, you envision the sound. We said, we need to create that exact same thing within electrification. We need to take every ICE car takes today, all of the inputs, throttle position, speed of opening of throttle, whether you're shifting, whether you're not shifting, load of the engine, whether you're decelerating, all of the inputs that go into making the difference in sound today, we need to then pipe those in to an algorithm to create the movement of air. The movement of air, quite frankly, would be no different than a speaker inside a car, which people have done. We said, we don't want to do that. We want to create the movement of air through an exhaust system, through pipes, through chambers, through mufflers, and then back out the back of the car through a tailpipe. It sounds like a subtle difference. It's not, because when I shape that sound differently, that pipe organ, and I set up the back of the car, that spatial difference in your mind hearing that is like the first time you ever heard surround sound in a theater. You were blown away by where did that jet just come from? It's the same thing with this car. When that sound is coming out of the back, 126 decibels, which is literally the same volume level of a Hellcat, it really catches people by surprise. And the sound itself is very unique, very different, and really stops you in your tracks. There's a reason we called the car the top end car, the Banshee, because it literally, at wide open throttle, it screams like a Banshee, just a Banshee wailing like a jet engine. But when it settles down between shifts, and that's important, between shifts, because electric cars don't shift, ours does, between shifts, and when it settles back down, there's a rumble to it that people will be familiar with. And they probably won't realize why, but the reason they'll be familiar with it is in that cadence of that rumble is literally the firing order of a Hemi V8.
Now, you mentioned gear shifting. Electric cars don't typically have gears. They have one speed. It's like a rail gun accelerating in one. You've actually put gears in this, or are you simulating gear shifts in an electric car?
Both. Electric motors have instantaneous torque. We all know that. They feel amazing. They're all powerful. They're all fast. Even the ones that aren't very interesting are quick and fast. And not having a transmission, having only one speed, you couldn't do that with a normal ICE engine, but it's very easy to do it with electric motors. and it is by far the most efficient. I'm not going to lie, a single speed transmission or a single speed and a BEV is the most efficient way to do it. The way we're doing it is not the most efficient, but there's something really important about the visceral feel of a muscle car. When it shifts and the back end kicks out and your shoulders go back in the seat, that's what says muscle car to us. So we have a mechanical multi-speed transmission in the car, and we have the ability to instantaneously, for a couple hundred milliseconds, pull torque out and add torque back in. So we can give you hard banging muscle car shifts in addition to the mechanical shift that's built in.
Now, what we're seeing today, technically a concept. You haven't revealed all the secrets and specifications of it. So what sort of numbers are we looking at with this vehicle?
So the only thing that we committed to is I said that it will be more powerful and it will outperform all of the V8s that we have today, even the supercharged V8s.
Now, today you sell about 125,000 Chargers and Challengers with V6s and V8s. They start in the low 30s. Is that the kind of car this is going to be? You're going to be selling it in volume? You're going to be selling it at a price point that starts there? Or is this a whole different prospect?
Well, we're not talking about the pricing yet. That, you know, just because you transition to electrification, people aren't going to be prepared to spend a ton more money. Now, I don't know what the subsidies will be by the time we get to market, TBD on that. But up to this point, the government support of electrification has been fairly aggressive. So we'll see what happens in the future, but we know exactly where the sweet spot of the market is. I mean, if you look at our sweet spot today, you're right. We start at 30,000 and we go up to almost 100,000. We do it all on performance steps. We will do that in the future as well. We're not going to walk away from that price walk, but we're going to make that walk based on the power outputs that we have.
Now, I know you're a muscle car guy. You love the V8s. How do you personally feel about this shift, especially when you're the one making the call on it, basically?
You know, at first, early on, I was really struggling with it, having a hard time getting my head around it. But the first time you drive an electrified product, whether it's a PHEV or a full battery electric, you quickly realize that there is a ton of potential there for performance. What I couldn't get my head around at first was how are we going to make it fun? The performance part was easy. All EVs are fast. Now that we have a couple of ways to really change the dynamics of how we deliver that power and make it fun, now I'm excited about what this can bring. Now that we can use it for performance and not just for compliance, the crazies are going to get their hand in this stuff and it's going to go nuts.
All right, Tim Knisis, Dodge CEO. Thanks for talking to us about the big changes coming to your brand.
Thank you, Gary.
And to read all about it and